Welcome back, watch people. Now, there has been two huge pieces of news for us all in the watch world this week. Firstly, of course, Rolex confirming their official entry into the pre-owned watch market. What effect, good or bad, will that have on us all? And secondly, the news that Watchmaster have allegedly filed for insolvency, leaving many watch owners worryingly in the dark, whether that be through watches they've ordered and paid for but have yet to receive, or if they have watches left on consignment with Watchmaster. And who better to join me tonight and discuss all of this than one of our most popular and trusted dealers? That, of course, is Jonathan from Edinburgh Watch Company. Jonathan, good evening.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Firstly, what did you make of the news about Rolex officially entering the pre-owned watch market this week?
Well, I think it's good news, but I'm thinking purely from a customer point of view initially. It's more choice. It authenticates a scheme provided by the manufacturer, and I guess in many ways follows what the car dealers have been doing for many years. So it's not before time, and I think it's a good start. I think it's how it actually folds out will be the interesting thing, what it really means for dealers and for customers.
Well, that was going to be one of my first questions here. I think the first thing that I'd like to analyse tonight, Jonathan, and try and do it from a neutral sort of basis, is let's look at some of the pros and cons, potentially the pros and cons, both for the watch buying public, but also for the pre-owned independent watch dealers. Well, start off with the watch buying public. I think there are a lot of potential positives for them. I think those that are perhaps a little bit unsure of the pre-owned market in general, and as we spoke briefly earlier, we both don't really like the term grey market dealers. There's nothing grey about what we do or what I did and what you do. But that's how people refer to us. Um, let's look at it from the public's viewpoint. If there are people out there that are worried, being able to buy a pre-owned certified watch from Rolex themselves, that's got some appeal, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to worry about. Rolex dealers for years, some more than others, have been selling the occasional used watch. Um, that Imagine that the local authorized dealer would have put some form of their shop warranty on it. This is now the manufacturer taking a lead, and in fact leading by example, because they are the first main manufacturer to authenticate a pre-owned scheme like that. So I think it's really good news, and I don't think any customers have anything to worry about. But as you said earlier, Paul's, it's new news, and not everybody likes change. But I think it's definitely good news, and it will just, as I say, very much depends on how it falls out.
Contrary to popular belief and some of the messages that I've read over the last 24 hours, and I've actually picked out two or three that I'm going to read to you later, not because I'm digging them out or because there's anything wrong with the messages, but they're messages that I think that I'd like to cover, and I know that you'll enjoy a cover. But contrary to popular belief today, I think this is a good thing for the grey market dealers as well. A lot of people seem to think that the the pre-owned dealers like yourself, like Spencer, etc., are all going to be hands in the air. Oh God, we're going to go out of business. We've got this massive competitor that are Rolex on the scene. I don't think it's going to quite pan out that way.
I have to admit, I welcome change, and I welcome what's good for the customer at the end of the day. And I'm not at all concerned or worried by this change. I'm I'm proud to be an independent dealer. I've had this company now for 8 years, and I've had a wonderful time engaging with customers and dealing with customers. And I would hope during that time my customers will have the belief in me that I will still be a company and an individual that they'll want to deal with. And there are many independent dealers up and down the country and across the world that will be in exactly the same place. I watched your video yesterday with Spencer and noted a lot of the comments, and I suspect many of your viewers will be car enthusiasts as well, who've been buying luxury cars through the years. And of course, we'll draw parallels between watches and cars and look at the way the manufacturers have uh, reassured buyers and try to drive their buyers to buy a pre-owned Mercedes or an Audi from a dealer. Now, when you actually look at Rolex's website and the statements they're very quite clearly saying you should buy your pre-owned authenticated Rolex from a Rolex dealer. Well, of course they will, but it is all about choice. And we talked yesterday when you were with Spencer about, if Spencer were to have a watch at 15,000 and a Rolex authorized dealer had a similar watch at 15,000, same age, year, model, etc., then yes, I think it'd be fair to say they may choose to go and buy from that Rolex dealer.
Yeah.
But of course, relationships are very, very important. Price is very important. And I, along with many, probably having looked at the press release that Rolex put out, jumped onto Boucher's website, looked at their massive collection of watches they have, and of course looked at the prices and compared maybe to our own and to my competitors out there. And there's without no doubt they are very, very expensive. And therefore, it just really depends on that is just the start on how it rolls out, because there's a huge price differential and money matters, and really it's for customers then to decide which route they take, but it's very, very early days.
Well, this is the problem for authorized dealers. Let's put ourselves in their shoes for a moment if we can. We've got to buy stock. We've got to buy stock at the right price. We've got to service it. We've got to warranty it, and we've got to make a profit at the end of that. That's going to be difficult because they're going to find it difficult to pay as much as the grey market dealers might be prepared to pay. Even if they're prepared to meet that and pay the same, they've then got to put that expensive warranty on it. And what do we think Rolex are going to charge them for that warranty? And how is that servicing going to work, you think? I think that watch is going to have to go off for a Rolex service. That price is going to be ultimately built into the price, the final sale price, which is going to make it hard for them to compete, I think.
Yes, indeed. Again, if you're going back to the parallels with cars, of course, this is trying to work on that customer attention. There are thousands of customers around the world visiting Rolex stores, trying to get their dream watch, to be met with a beautiful watch in the window that's exhibition only. Now they can go into a store and see a pre-owned watch, but there'll be a massive difference in price between what it cost at retail versus what they're going to be asking for it.
Yeah.
And indeed, what's in it for Rolex? So where do they earn their money? So are they going to be charging the authorized dealer a per sale basis on per watch they sell? Are they going to insist that these watches are put through a Rolex service center? I suspect they will be.
I think
Are
so.
they going to be charging them a per watch sale for the warranty, that's the 2-year warranty that's provided? We also talk about these watches, it's 3 years and on. Now, I think if I'm right in saying, the more recent watches have almost have an extended 10-year service level on them now, because the parts, the oils, and everything that's making that movement work so well can now be extended. Again, very similar to engines and cars these days.
Sure.
So a 4-year-old Rolex watch doesn't necessarily need a service, but it is going to need a preparation. And that won't be really any different than the independents will actually be doing. But of course, it will have that 2-year stamp on it. I think the other thing I was thinking about too is that where this just could be the start, it could be a phase 1 project. If you think about back to cars again, if you think about BMW, if you went onto their website, you would see, of course, the new cars, but you may be interested in a pre-approved car. All the BMW approved dealers throughout the UK have the option of having their cars located on the BMW's website, and by a customer filtering and looking for the specific model they want, they'll be able to see cars around the country. Well, Rolex, technically, if they wanted to put the technology and the infrastructure into that, could allow UK-wide dealers, global-wide dealers in each country to list their watches onto a Rolex website, whereupon you have that choice between new and pre-owned. That could be the future. Again, that will be very then competitive.
So almost becoming an official Rolex Chrono 24.
Absolutely. I think
it's an interesting prospect.
Yeah, I think that's all possible. But
Don't
again,
give me any ideas, Jonathan.
No, I was thinking I should keep that idea to myself. But if they do, great. It comes back to, you got the question you asked me
Choice.
earlier. What do
Yeah.
I think? It's about choice, and
Yeah.
I fully respect customers have a choice whether they sell to me, whether they buy from me. And it's really up to me just to try and do my best to give them the best service. And I'm very honored with the amount of repeat business I get. And, again, all your trusted dealers, the independents out there, I think we will certainly take notice of it. It is a reminder to say, look, we need to make sure we're on the ball by means
Yeah.
of everything we're doing for a customer. There's competition that's come along
That's
here
another
now. So,
positive for the buyers, Jonathan.
yeah,
Keeps
absolutely.
everyone on their toes.
Absolutely. So no, I think it's exciting news, and as I say, the Boucher have kicked it off. But interestingly, I had a call from a customer today, and he had a couple of watches on order from a well-known UK-wide jeweler. And by chance, they called him and offered him two pre-owned examples of exactly the same models he was on the wait list for. So I suspect, could there have been an embargo, and now the doors are open, and will our customers now suddenly be offered all sorts of watches that
Mm.
dealers might have been keeping back, might have been made available to them? Who knows? Time will tell.
Very likely, Jonathan. That what I've often, so I've wondered where this stock's going to come from. Brings me on to a question from one of my viewers from the Skater Reel, and thank you for this. I think it's a statement more than a question, really. But this, for me, again, and I'm not digging the viewer out. It for me highlights some of the misconceptions. He says this is a win-win for enthusiasts. More competition, especially from the biggest watch company, will drive prices down and help in limiting Franken watches being mixed in with questionable dealers. Now, I'll get your response to that in a moment. My initial response to that is, Mr. Skaterill, look, I mean, I would hope that none of my viewers, if they've been watching my channel at least for long enough, would even think about dealing with questionable dealers. That's my first view on that comment. Secondly, and I think more importantly, a big misconception over the last 24 hours is that this is going to drive prices further down. No, it's going to drive prices further up, because when people see the price or the premium that you were going to have to pay to buy a pre-owned certified Rolex from an authorized dealer, which is a nice thought, I think they're going to be surprised. And I think that will only firm up prices and potentially drive prices up further, and bring a trend back up. Whether I'm right or wrong will remain to be seen. But I'm going to give you, let's just go through that question there, Jonathan. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that is an interesting one. It depends on who sets the market. So let's look at some of the big boys out there. Watchfinder, to some extent, they'll set the market. I know many dealers and customers and enthusiasts will look at their pricing. Chrono 24 sets the market. So to some extent, it will depend upon how these authorized dealers do set their prices. And it's very early to tell now. But yes, you're right. I mean, if they push the prices up, then the independent dealers' prices to a point will follow. I think the smart ones will, again, like a pre-owned independent specialist dealer, maybe slightly less expensive than them. We all want to be competitive. We've got to think, well, what is their USP versus ours? And so we'll just have to see how that one goes. But by means of Franken watches, that doesn't concern me really. I wouldn't expect any Franken
Different
watches to
world.
be.
Yeah,
It's a
it's a different
different
world
world.
to the one that we live in, right?
Absolutely. I know the process I put my pre-owned watches through, that we're not going to have that. And likewise, you wouldn't expect that from a
Yeah.
Rolex dealer. So again, I think that's very much a case of just investing time in a dealer you're dealing with, and would like to think Rolex will be perfect. Not everybody's perfect. Mistakes will be made. It's all down to the front staff that you have, the technicians you have, but more often it'll be unlikely.
Yeah. And I have the perfect analogy, Jonathan. I'm going to bring this one up because you talk wonderfully about the examples of BMW and Mercedes, Porsche, etc. And I have the perfect example just this week myself. I was talking to Spencer about it. I've got my eye on a new bike, and I went to my local BMW Motorrad, looking at a 1250 GSA Adventure, and they had a used one in there, newly serviced, new 2-year guarantee, fully certified by BMW, um, all singing and dancing from BMW, just how you'd like to buy it. And they wanted just under £16,000 for this bike that was a 2020 registered motorcycle with 11,000 miles on the clock. Not bad. So you've got all the confidence of buying that bike from the main dealer. Did a little bit of research and I found a privately owned one, 2022, higher spec, still under warranty with BMW for £250 less. And it's done 100 miles. So I'll let you guess as to which one I've chosen to buy. Now, it will be very nice to buy direct from BMW, but ultimately, my head and what's in front of me is going to rule what I buy. So, for those out there that think, and I'll read the second comment out that I wanted to read out here. It's from Sash Shah. And he's talking about me and Spencer, actually, but he'll probably be talking about you as well after this. He says, love how these guys are trying to justify themselves. They are the cause of these insane prices. I very much welcome Rolex entering the used game. I think, again, I'm not digging this person out, but a total misunderstanding of the watch world and what's gone on over the last few years.
I suspect the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old watches are going to be fine. The interesting thing will be on the much older watches where the bracelets are tired. And you know what Rolex are like when you send your watch to Rolex, they want to do everything to it. And so it's going to make these watches very, very expensive for them to take to a Rolex pre-owned standard.
And as well, it would be very interesting to see what sort of prices are being offered by the ADs, what they can afford. You know, we're going to see a lot of people complaining about how little they've been offered by their authorised dealers, but you've got to be fair to them. The public has got to understand that they're not running a corner shop, and they're going to need a hefty profit margin to make that work. Another potential plus for buyers, Jonathan, and I think potentially huge leverage for the ADs will be, look, if you buy your pre-owned Rolex from us, this will bump you up the ladder for the new Daytona that you're waiting for. So they could definitely use that as leverage. But I've got to say, tongue firmly in cheek, I hope that leverage is used in an honest fashion. And I have to say, I don't expect you to nod or shake your head, whichever way.
No, I'm just laughing because I think they're quite experienced at that, aren't they?
Exactly.
Because they've already been asking customers to buy
Thank you
numerous
very
Datejust
much.
and jewelry.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
I hope that's
shouldn't be a
used
problem for them.
I hope that's used very much in an honest fashion. But I think it's a very interesting thing that's taken place. I've spoken to a lot of grey dealers today, probably, I don't know, in excess of 7 or 8. And I've had WhatsApp messages from probably another 20. And I can honestly say every single one of them is jumping up and down with joy because they feel that this is going to bolster the market.
Well, the news is out. We've chatted about it. We'll now just have to see what this brings. It's really going to start to roll out from the new year onwards. We'll start to see watches appearing in dealers. We'll start to see prices, and it will give us enthusiasts, us dealers, lots to talk about
Absolutely.
as we hope
Gives us
for
some,
them to start to see its success. So I listen. It's great. It's exciting news for the watch
yeah.
industry.
Good luck to them. Now we build up to the Christmas period, Jonathan. Let's get on to you and the wonderful Edinburgh Watch Company. What's Christmas 2023 looking? 2023. I've jumped ahead a year already. What's Christmas 2022 looking like for Edinburgh Watch Company?
Well, I guess we're trying to prepare for it. I don't know. I'm never really that busy at Christmas. I know a lot of jewelers historically prepare for Christmas, and probably it's because I'm not smart enough to doing advanced marketing campaigns in the lead up to it. But do you know what? I'd rather be busy as I am throughout the year than just having a big burst at Christmas.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've got some lovely stock. I have been back on the YouTube channel again and doing, yeah, if I may just perhaps have the opportunity of a quick plug to say, please jump on our YouTube channel. It's just Edinburgh Watch Company. And you can see we've been putting out a few videos there showing our latest collection. So as you know, I'm a YouTuber in denial. I don't profess to be an expert like the Adrians and Pauls of this world, but you know, it's good fun. It's nice to be back in front of the camera talking about watches. So reasonably busy. I don't really think it started yet. I have to be honest. We are getting, and I think I can probably speak for most buyers of watches, dealers buying watches, 8 out of 10 phone calls I'm getting are still to sell.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's not panic. It's just people are selling. I think people are just looking at what is ahead. In the same way you've been talking to lots of independent dealers today, I throughout my week talks to my customers, to all sorts of people I know that have a feel on what's going on in the world, and it's really trying to best guess what does the future look like. And I asked somebody I know, I said, look, this recession we're all talking about, is it going to go off a cliff? Is it just suddenly going to happen? And the view from him was unlikely. It's just more going to be a sort of gradual squeeze as the mortgage rates go up and the cost of living goes up, that people just have less discretionary spend. So is that in the mindset now of people as they're buying in the lead up to Christmas? I suspect it will be. So again, all we can do is, you know, we'll be there to try and support customers as best we can. We've got lovely watches. We will buy all we can. But again, the market's changed, and as we all know,
Yeah.
prices have come down. So our prices are, you know, considerably less for many of our watches than they were a few months ago. And it will just be interesting to see over the next few months how that goes too.
Let's talk about that for a moment, Jonathan. And you're absolutely right. I admire your honesty. You know, I've been saying to my viewers, and I pride myself in trying to give them the very best honest advice. We just don't know, do we? Really, in all honesty, we can't safely predict how it's going to go.
No, I think so. And I think I've said this before. You know, if people are watching this video or other videos and thinking, what do I do? Should I sell my watch? Is this a good time to sell? Is it a good time to buy? Well, it's a good time to buy a pre-owned watch compared to what it was months ago. Is it worth holding off a few more months to see whether it dips? That's the same risk as like stocks and shares. It's about taking a gamble on the way the market will go.
Yeah.
By means of selling your pride and joy, your watches, if you don't have to sell it and you want to hang on to it, then hang on to it.
Yeah. That's
Just
always
make
my
that right decision.
Yeah.
Just look at life, and yeah, sure, if you've got a few more watches that you need and there's some bills to be paid and cars to be bought and Christmas to be paid for, then sure, you can go and
Yeah.
sell them. But it's I don't think there's a panic to rush out and sell. And the other thing too, positive look on it. We've been through this awful pandemic. It's going to be a much happier Christmas for everybody around the world just now, to be together. We can all be with our families. Most of us are still working. We still have incomes. We've got birthdays, we've got anniversaries, we've got all sorts of things to be joyous about. And of course, that time of year of giving. It's a lovely thing to go into a shop, to go online and choose something special to give someone, whether it's jewelry,
Yeah.
watches, whatever. And I think it's an exciting time. And that's probably what I love most about my job, is just being a little part in that conversation, helping customers choose
Yeah.
something special, being with them, the look on their face when they get presented with something. And that's the fun of what I do. It
I
really
miss that,
is.
Jonathan. I miss that. I miss that so much. That's one of the big things that I miss about being a dealer. Let's talk about managing customers' pricing expectations for a moment, because that can't be easy for you at the moment when people are ringing up, maybe expecting prices that realistically you just can't pay anymore. And there's also the horrible potential of maybe a watch that you sold 6 months ago at the going rate, customer now needs to sell, and it's not worth as much as he paid for it. How are you dealing with those expectations and those occasions when they occur?
In all fairness to the majority of the people that call me, I think many of those people call me through you, Paul, because they've watched the channel. Many are existing customers. Most people are tuned in, aligned to what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm glad to say the majority of people calling me are fairly realistic. They know
Yeah.
the market has dropped a little bit. And as ever, I will have a pretty transparent conversation with them about how I see things. And hopefully we can reach an agreement to proceed. If not, I hope that that conversation is helpful to them in helping them make the decision. It's never a wasted call. Any call I get, I never think's wasted. If I can help them in some way, if it helps them to build the intelligence and make the decision on what to do. But yeah, there are some customers who will have bought watches months ago that may need to sell, and they are going to have to take a bit of a drop. And that's just unfortunate.
We're all kind
But
of in the
again,
same boat, though, Jonathan. I mean, you will have, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I'm sure that you must have had or even have some stock that has dropped in value.
yes, I think so. But fortunately, not many. There are a few old friends on the website now that it would be nice to find a new home for, but they're not wildly overpriced compared to others. But I hear of other dealers now that are really overexposed and are going to be losing a lot of money by selling them. And some of them, I think, have just put the watches back in the safe and forgot about them, hoping the market will pick up again. But I'm fairly patient with them. I don't have a big board that's knocking me around the head saying we have to get these watches
Yeah.
sold, just take a loss on them. I don't have a 30, 60, 90-day policy. They're there. They've been bought sensibly, and I hope we'll find a home for them sometime. But I'm not overly concerned. I mean, I've got 40 watches in stock on the website. I'm not a big dealer.
Yeah.
I'm not a PLC, so I can kind of run with it, as it were. And
Yeah.
let's, when we get an inquiry, we can have a conversation. We'll try and work something out.
And we
So,
are
but
predominantly, Jonathan, we are basically really only still talking about the hugely hype watches. It's the hugely hype watches that have taken the hit. It's not the old 5-digit reference number watches. It's not the older vintage style watches. It's not even some of the more or less popular modern new watches. It is really a certain amount of the hype models, the hype brands. I mean, I know that AP have taken a big hit recently, and look, I've got more than one sitting in my safety deposit box, so it doesn't please me to say it, but it's the truth. It is what it is. I bought those watches with my eyes wide open.
I mean, for some time I've been staying away from these big pieces. When I say that, I mean the Pateks, the Aquanauts, the Nautiluses, the big APs. Because as we know, and it's been said before, the people who are making all the money on these watches are really the original buyers who are,
Yeah.
you can't blame them, looking to get a fantastic return on them. And if you don't get that purchase right and get it sold reasonably quickly, then you will be caught out big time. And when you're talking watches that, around £100,000, that's a lot of money to
Yeah.
lose if you were to
Yeah.
sell it. So I suppose I'm probably my ex-RBS part of me reasonably cautious in what I do. But things like Pepsis, root beers, Kermits, Starbucks, Daytonas, they've all come back. But I'm glad they've come back. They're more affordable. They're more competitive now for people
Yeah.
to buy. I think the gold watches have certainly slowed. I've got some really nice. I've got a beautiful Yachtmaster 2. I've got a rose gold Daytona. I've got some really lovely gold pieces, but they normally would have flown out the door, these watches, and they're
Yeah.
not
They've
going
slowed
quite so
down a bit.
fast. But again, £38,000. Again, that's a lot of money, and even those that have got that sort of money now are probably thinking twice.
Yeah.
You know.
Just going back to you've just reminded me actually there, Jonathan. I wanted to go back to Mr. Shah's comment earlier when he said that grey market dealers are the cause of these insane prices. And I just wanted to make a comment on that. For me, and I know I've said it before, but I've got to say again, the root cause, and there are more than one of them. I mean, I think the COVID period, obviously, and the lack of supply all the bounce back loans, excess money, that's all part and parcel of it. But for me, the real cause of the insane prices is emanated from the authorised dealers themselves in many instances. And it's them and their preferred clients, or their so-called preferred clients. It's the flippers that have made the huge money in the initial sale from AD to you, for an example. So if anyone's not getting that, let me explain it. Let's say I'm your average flipper and I go and get a platinum Daytona from my AD this afternoon, and then I ring you up. I'm asking every last single penny profit out of that watch. I know the retail price of it, and most of these guys, Jonathan, they want within $1,000 or so of what they think you're going to sell it for, or am I wrong? Until you educate them.
No, you're absolutely right. I think the thing too here is that business owners, were just trying to make a margin. And if we can buy the watch at X and sell it for Y, it doesn't really matter where it's been. So, years ago, the price was much less. We'd put our margin on and sell for that. The price comes up, we put our margin on and sell for that. And as it comes down, we'll sell for a bit less. So,
Yeah.
yes, you're right. I mean, what's the cause of it? Well, Rolex, I've created a brand over many, many years that is a brand that people aspire to buy. It's a fantastic product, and they cannot make enough watches for that. As we've read in the press recently, I think they're spending $1 billion expanding their infrastructure to make more watches.
Yeah.
But that's going to take a few years for that really to start to make a difference. So we can't get the watches, but all their corporate sponsorship and all the reasons why people want to buy a Rolex hasn't changed, and therefore people want what they can't get. They will pay for what they can't get. And yes, you're right. It is the original buyer who's formed that relationship with a Rolex dealer that gets the watch, and he gets to make the premium. And us independent dealers, we'll just stick a margin on that. And that's not going to change. It will come up, it will go down.
Yeah.
And that's just the way business will always
And
be.
just to prove my sincerity, Jonathan, I'm not, trying to break anyone's heart in the case of the independent dealers. It's the same for the ADs. The ADs have made a relatively small margin. Well, I say relatively small, a bigger margin than you guys will make. I mean, you guys don't make 38.5% on your sales, right? I know that. So the AD makes between 35, 38.5%. The flipper is making anywhere between 50 and 150%. And then you guys are making 20, 10, 20%.
Yeah.
Is
I think
very rough figures.
Yeah, and I also think these Rolex dealers, they get a hard time. A Rolex dealer has to be on a busy high street. He will have had to fall within the guidelines of Rolex by means of the hundreds of thousands of pounds he's had to invest into his premises to give the
Yeah,
Rolex look and feel. He's had
absolutely.
to probably train their staff to the Rolex standard, and then they can't get the Rolex watches through. So
Yeah,
these salesmen,
very
I can
difficult.
understand. Yeah, I can understand the frustration. They're having to deal with disappointed customers who can't come in to buy watches. So therefore, they've hardly got anything to sell, but they've still got all the overheads to go with it. So in a way, I'm delighted with this pre-owned scheme because it will bring more customers into Rolex dealers. It will give them more choice, and again, it will reinforce the brand. But there
You
still
never
won't
know,
be enough.
Jonathan. They might even start treating the public like human beings.
Wow. And you know the thing about this too
I'm
is
not going to
that
hold my breath for that one.
there's a place for all of us in this.
Yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
share of the pie we can all have, and I hope that my customers will, keep coming back. They've enjoyed dealing with me, as many of your trusted dealers, as many independents up and down the country, and there'll just be more for us all to enjoy.
A sadder, more contentious note, if you like. I'm sure you've seen, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning it. We've seen the potential alleged demise of Watchmaster this week after a horrible, unfortunate robbery in Germany. They've allegedly filed for insolvency this week. I've put in a request to the owners of Watchmaster for an interview so that I can help them hopefully clarify the situation, and I'd be delighted to do that for them and for their customers. I think the worrying thing is that there appears to be a lot of people that have either purchased watches from Watchmaster and haven't yet received them, and are now wondering if they're going to get a refund or their watches, or just as worryingly, they've left watches with Watchmaster on consignment. A big shock to everyone concerned. My initial view, I'll give you my initial view in it. I know a lot of people are really angry with Watchmaster right now, and I totally understand that. At this particular time, I would say I think they need to show some patience. I think that all the signs that I'm seeing at the moment tells me that Watchmaster wish to do the right thing. I think they will do the right thing. I certainly hope they do the right thing and that everyone gets at least what they're due, i.e. their watches back, their watches that they've paid for, their money or whatever. But the reality of it is that's going to take time. And I think people are going to have to be patient.
Yeah, I think you've got it spot on. And I guess I feel for how they feel because I've been through a similar thing myself earlier this
Absolutely.
year.
Yeah.
Not the same, but I was an individual who owned his own business, who had a big, significant loss. And there was the unknown. And that's the difficult bit because right
Yeah.
now they don't know. They can only read and hear what you and I have seen. And it will take time. And it's the worst time of the year for this to happen. It's a
Mm.
terrible start to these
Yeah.
people's
Yeah.
Christmas. And I feel for the business, and I hope the business will do the right thing, having read the text that yes, while their insurance may pay the cost to their customers who've lost the money, it will not pay all the other add-ons that the business needs to keep that business going, and hence they've gone into this situation. I've had many conversations with customers who have spoken to Watchmaster, who put their watches on consignment, and it's always a bit nerve-wracking to send your watch across to Germany and leave it with someone to sell. But the prices they've offered have been very, very strong compared to anybody else in the UK. But that was then, and this is now. So I just hope that the insurance is there to support them, and that
Yeah.
those customers will get something back. Again, it's another thorn in the watch industry to see such a giant be impacted like this, and it doesn't help for buyers' confidence in doing
No, it
something like
doesn't.
that.
It doesn't, Jonathan. And I will say that look, right now those are my initial thoughts. This channel and me personally, myself, I'll stick by the watch owners and the viewers every single step of the way. But I think at the same time, you have to give Watchmaster the chance to do the right thing, and I think they will do that. And it will unfold as the weeks and months pass by. The other thing is that it brings a big question up again about consignment. And I know that David Khalil, for instance, has always been very much against consignment, has always said that, he's concerned about dealerships that take on consignment. And I've disagreed with him in the past. And to some degree, I still do, because I think that, look, Jonathan, I used to take the odd watch on consignment, particularly when it was a watch that I didn't really want to buy. I was more than happy to try and help the customer out. But if I didn't want to buy it, or if I thought the watch was a little bit overpriced for me and it didn't make sense for me business wise, I would offer to sell the watch on consignment, not because I couldn't afford to own it, but because I didn't want to own it. I didn't mind selling it, but I didn't want to put my name to it and buy it. So that may now turn people off of leaving their watches on consignment. But the caveat to that is that if you're a dealer, again, if you are using the right type of dealer, I would never take on anything that I couldn't afford to pay for had the worst happened. So if I had, for example, my limit was usually 5. I didn't really want any more than 5 consignment watches in my possession, which meant that if they were all stolen on the Monday, I could pay for them all on the Tuesday. If I had 105, that was going to be very difficult. and I would never have got myself into that situation. Um, do you take consignment watches yourself?
Very rarely. Um, I have had a few, and for example, a Jaeger-LeCoultre Duometra, I think a Patek in my very early days, the odd watch that I think is a lovely watch. I think as businesses, we all make our own decisions on how we do
Yeah,
it, and there's not a right or a wrong answer. But for me, um, I can buy these watches, and the reason why I don't do a lot of consignment, traditionally, it is because the customer will want more than you want to give them
yeah,
to buy that watch, and hence you'd go into a consignment.
yeah,
And there are good dealers who are very successful in a consignment model, and particularly those dealers that may not have the funds, shall we say, to buy those 100 watches, but they will do 100 consignments and they will make a turn on it and they will get a sale. The customer who has the watch has got what he wants, they've made a return on it and they've got a customer, and that's great. The problem where it gets unstuck is that if you've had to no, chosen to take that watch on consignment and sold it, and then the customer comes back in 3 months' time, circumstances change and they want to sell it, they may feel you have a slight obligation to buy that watch off them. And then if you really want to pay for it what you really think, then that's going to be quite a difficult conversation. Now, those who do consignment regularly will come across that situation when they'll probably just say, well, look, we'll consign it for you again and we'll put it back up for sale. Now, that's fine if that person who's selling it has time to sell it.
yeah,
But more often than not, people selling their cars, their watches, their luxury items, they've got something else to do with that money and they don't want to wait months, weeks for that to sell. That's my decision as to why I don't do it. I'd rather just buy the. And the other thing too, it gets a bit more complicated too, because when you've got a consignment watch, how do you prepare that watch? Let's imagine it was a Patek that had to go away for Patek for 6 months to be prepared properly, or do you just sell it the way it is and wing
yeah,
it and
yeah.
see what happens? That doesn't work for me. I'm
Mm,
I'm a bit of a control freak, but with the right way. I want to
yeah,
buy a watch. I want to know who that customer is, make the decision that this is a watch I like, I think my customers will like. If it's a watch that needs prep, it goes away to my specialist and it goes through their process and they have carte blanche to do what they want to it. It then comes back, it gets photographed, prepared, and it's priced and off it goes. I don't really have any problems in that way. And yes, if a customer was to sell that watch to me again in the future, I hope it's gone up in value, but who knows? So that's my take on it. But it's not to say the consignment model's wrong. It's just, my view. And it's just so sad to see that many thousands, or
yeah.
maybe 1,000 customers sadly have been impacted by, you know, uh, a very large player in the industry.
But that is the
And I
problem
guess
for
that,
me, though, Jonathan.
and it will have an impact. It's going to have an
Yeah,
impact on
too many
people
watches,
who
though,
get,
for me.
yeah,
Too many
yeah.
watches. I mean, I couldn't sleep at night having that. I couldn't. I mean, back in the day, I've been offered a lot of watches on consignment. Other dealers have said to me, "I'll take it, Paul, see if you can sell it, 80, 90 grand watch." And I would turn it down. I said, "Look, I don't want the responsibility of that. I don't want to, if I get robbed on the way home, I owe you 80, 90 grand. And I don't fancy that. I don't want to be in that position. And I certainly would never want to be in a position of holding 900, 1,000 pieces that didn't belong to me. But look, it is what it is. And as I said, we've got our eye right across it, and we'll be there ultimately to support the community and hope that it all pans out well for everyone. Jonathan, it's been amazing speaking to you. Time just flies when we get together.
I'm not sure I'm going to be back on the show before the end of this year. So can I just take this opportunity, Paul, just to send my love and best wishes to you and all your community. And I hope that everybody has a really great Christmas. And I hope that we'll be back together at some point next year. But it's been
Absolutely,
great
mate.
fun. Thanks for the chat.
Lovely, Jonathan. Speak to you soon, mate. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all.
Bye-bye.